everybody. We are live at the Rep Morgan McGarvey Social Security Town Hall. We'll be getting started here shortly. So yeah, just sit tight. We'll get going here in a moment.
I hope you weren't rolling. I hope you weren't rolling.
No, I am. But you didn't do it?
Well, I didn't notice the phone was so small.
Yeah, I know on the giant.
Yeah.
It's because I'm leaving it alone. I want to make sure that it's stable. Because I have my monopod and I will leave it sitting, but I'm always just like, oh my gosh, it's going to fall over. It's going to fall over.
The owner equipment is critical. You know when you're doing it still.
Yeah.
Good morning. Oh, come on, guys. Good morning. Yeah, that's what I want to hear. Thank you all so much for fighting through the nightmare that University of Louisville created for all of us this morning. We did our best to coordinate everything ahead of time, but the university decided to have a walk and not tell anyone. So we really appreciate you persevering and being here, because today is a very important discussion, and we love every opportunity we can take to engage with you one-on-one. So before I get everything started, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Amy Washburn. I'm the district director here in Louisville. That means I work in the Louisville office. I am here all the time. I work for you. We have an entire casework team that works at the Ron Mazzoli Federal Building to help you with everything from veterans benefits, passports, Social Security, disability, all the things to do with the federal government. If you ever have any problems, just go to our website and give us a call. We're happy to help. A little bit of ground rules for today. The longer you speak, the longer you ask your question, that's taking time away from someone else. And we want to get to everybody, because people get really mad when we don't get to them. And you don't want anyone to get mad at me, and I don't want anyone to get mad at Morgan. So please, don't monologue. Try to keep it to 30 seconds so everyone gets an opportunity. We also want to respect everyone here. So if someone's asking a question that you don't agree with or it makes you mad, please keep it all inside. Bottle it in, push it down, repress it, and talk about it with your therapist. Please do not yell and scream here, because we will ask you to leave. That's not the vibe that we're going for here today, all right? We want to hear from everyone. We've got two lovely caseworkers. Kat in the back. Kat Vining, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! Give it up for Kat. And Miss Elizabeth Pena in the blue dress. Of course, we have a stack of your questions up here for Senator Herron, but if you have a question that's burning and you want to ask it live, just raise your hand and they will come to you. Senator Herron will point. Elizabeth and Kat will hold the microphone. You will not hold or take the microphone. And if you're in the middle of the aisle, just shout your question and they will repeat it into the microphone for everyone to hear. Cool? Awesome. You guys are so smart. All right, also just want you to be aware we are live streaming, so please don't do anything that you don't want to immortalize forever on the internet here today, okay? All right, without further ado, I want you guys to give a warm District 3 welcome to the former governor of Maryland, the former mayor of Baltimore, and our former Social Security Commissioner, Martin O'Malley. I love that. All right, and today's moderator, the incomparable, the undefeated Senator Keturah Herron. And last, but certainly not least, your Congressman for District 3, the incredible, the perfect, Morgan McGarvey!
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, and happy Saturday. I am State Senator Keturah Herron, and I represent the 35th Senate District. You all are actually sitting in the 35th Senate District, so welcome, 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 welcome to the district. I want to thank Manual for opening up their doors this morning. I want to thank Congressman McGarvey's staff and the organizers and the community folks who helped make this day possible. A lot of people showed up here this morning. You showed up here to raise your voice about issues that impacts almost every American across the nation in some type of way. We all have parents, grandparents, friends, or neighbors who rely on Social Security. The stark reality is, at any given point, any of us can become disabled and will need to rely on Social Security. I want to be very clear. Social Security isn't just a government program. It's a promise. It's a promise that we have made to each other. It's a promise that this nation has made for 90 years. You can clap for that. And what we know is right now in Washington, Republicans are playing politics and they're trying to take that promise away. And before I introduce our guest, I know that Amy has laid out some ground rules, but I want to reiterate those ground rules because it's so important. Please have no signs or banners. They are not allowed. Everyone here wants to be heard, and we understand it. So in order for everyone to be heard, please make sure that your questions are very short. Get straight to your question. I know that we all have a lot of stories, but the more questions that you ask, the more information that we can get. You're here to learn, I'm here to learn, and we're here to make sure that everyone's voice is heard. Congressman McGarvey's staff will be available after this to take any other questions, to do any type of casework. So again, make your questions short, and also please stick to the topic of Social Security. Cool? We got it? Yes? All right, cool. Now I want to introduce Congressman McGarvey. He has been a fighter in Frankfurt for us, and now he is fighting in DC. Thank you so much for your leadership. Thank you for your guidance and your dedication.
Thank you, Senator Herron. Good morning, everybody. It is great to see so many people here. Thank you guys for being here. First, let me apologize for the traffic situation on the way in. We didn't know about it either. And I'll put it this way, Governor O'Malley was mayor before he was governor. And so I called our mayor at 7:30 this morning about the traffic problems. And Governor, you know this. When your congressman calls you at 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday, it's not to invite you to breakfast. The mayor answered the phone and he goes, "Oh no." But he helped us out. Everybody's here. I'm sure there'll be some more people trickling in. Thank you guys for being here so much. This is such an important issue, right? Look at Kentucky. 150,000 of our neighbors here in Louisville depend on Social Security as a lifeline. There are over 1 million Kentuckians that depend on Social Security for a lifeline. But we know what that means besides numbers. I did a little town hall over in the old Beecher Terrace a few weeks ago, and a woman came up to me and she said, "Do not let them take Social Security. Without it, I can't live." Of those 1 million Kentuckians who receive Social Security, 53% would live below the poverty line without it. We are talking about human lives, human health, and human dignity when we are talking about Social Security. So that's why this is such an important thing. I'll tell you, this is a lot of things for me. It's great to share the stage with Senator Herron. It's great to share the stage with Governor O'Malley. We have Representative Sarah Stalker, who is here. We've got longtime advocate Ned Pillersdorf, who has been a big Social Security advocate. We've got some great people here. But you are sitting in my alma mater, Manual High School. And I can tell you, before I left the house this morning, I was talking to my wife and my youngest daughter who was up. And I said, "I can't believe I'm going to my high school to talk about Social Security." And then I said, "And I can't believe all these people are going to come to my high school to listen to me talk on stage." And my wife, who always keeps it real, looked back and she said, "They're not coming to listen to you." Just so you know, she keeps it real. She goes, "They're coming to listen to that O'Malley guy." And she's right, because Governor O'Malley is an absolute expert in this. And if there's a through line in his career, it has been every step of the way. He is about helping people. He is about helping people succeed. He understands and lives the idea that we help those those who are on the margins need the most of our care and attention. He is a public servant through his core. I've known him for 10 years now. The fact he is sitting here on a Saturday morning to talk about this issue shows you his commitment to people and to this country. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to our very special guest, Governor Martin O'Malley.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and congratulations to all of you who navigated the audience participation puzzle by finding the right auditorium. And I saw a lot of people walking a long way, and then they turned the corner and they saw the big empty parking lot, and I saw them go, So, Morgan, thank you for what you do for us every day. You know, when I first met Morgan 10 years ago, if you had told me that this guy is going to be the congressperson from this area of Kentucky, I would have said, of course he will be. Morgan, thank you for your leadership in Congress. Really difficult time, but you all are so very blessed to have a man who meets everybody where they're at. Doesn't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, as long as you want to serve people, he's willing to work with you. And we need more people like Morgan McGarvey in Congress. I also want to thank Senator Herron for her leadership and for laying out the rules for us and for everything you do in the state. The banning of the no-knock warrants, which I think the whole country saw. So thank you for your leadership as well, and for each of you for being here as leaders. And I want to make sure I also underscore the gentleman that Morgan acknowledged, and that is Ned Pillersdorf. Ned is right here. And Ned is accompanying former Justice Stumbo, his bride, who was one of your elected Supreme Court justices. And Ned, as you can tell, has always followed the advice that I got from my own mother, which is always marry up. I first met Ned when I went into the Social Security Administration because there was a long lingering injustice in the eastern part of Kentucky and Huntington, West Virginia, involving the Kahn case. And Ned has fought tooth and nail for his neighbors to get them justice and equity in that horrible situation where there were victims all over the place. So Ned, thank you for fighting for people who are on Social Security and deserve a fair shake. So look, a few years ago, I've served as mayor of Baltimore, served as governor of Maryland, and one Valentine's night, a few years back, I was minding my own business in the international food aisle of my local giant grocery store on York Road, getting dinner for my honey. And I got a call, and it was near attendant from the White House. And she said, "You busy?" I said, "Not as busy as you are." "What's up?" She said, "Governor, what's the biggest agency with the greatest amount of contact day in and day out with the American people after the post office and the IRS?" I said, "Social Security." She said, "That's right." And she said they're really struggling. 50-year low in staffing, all-time high number of customers, and every service delivery metric is going in the wrong way. To which I said, "Well, you got to get that fixed quick." And she said, "I was hoping you'd say that." And I thought she was calling for a reference on somebody that might have worked in one of my iterations of administrations. I said, "Who do you got?" She said, "Well, the president was hoping you'd do it." I said, "Whoa." I said, "That's the largest domestic program in America, isn't it?" She said, "Yes." And I said, "Whoa." And she said, "Full disclosure, it's all going in the wrong way. But the president knows how you like tough challenges." I said, "Well, that's true." I said, "I'm totally in." And so I got to learn in the course of my only 1 year there at Social Security from people like Ned, and also one of the most senior and one of the most experienced and knowledgeable senior executive services that used to exist in your entire federal government. And so every week, in 4 different iterations on a 2-week basis, we attacked our biggest challenges, and then it was rinse and repeat, and we were back there again. The wait times on the 1-800 number, the time it takes for initial disability determination, the time it takes to effectuate retiree applications. And we got it all moving in the right direction, and I learned a lot along the way from those experienced men and women. Because if they hadn't quit, given their workloads that they'd experienced, it was only because they believed in the mission. And so, I'm here to share with you some important truths about Social Security. And I want to share with you some truths about its dismantling. The dismantling of its reputation, the dismantling of its operations. But I come here not to scare you. I come here to empower you with that truth so you can return to your own tables of democracy with that truth and engage with your neighbors. How many of you have neighbors who have said lately, I'm mindful that we're on the official side of things, how many of you have neighbors who say, okay, y'all have neighbors. All right, good question. Good answer. How many of you have neighbors who say to you, I've kind of stopped watching TV on the news, right? Right. So everybody's kind of disengaging. And some of them will tell you for my own emotional or mental health, I've had to stop watching the TV. Totally understandable and totally unacceptable. And that's why you're here, because you understand that. We need to engage with people because right now they've taken 90% of the actions they need to take in order to topple this agency, which is saying a lot. And I'll share with you some of those actions. But what I want to do is empower you with the truth. We'll blow up some of the big lies and the big myths about it. And because I want you to be able to engage with your neighbors, with your coworkers, with that brother-in-law who only watches the Fox. Because what's actually going to save Social Security is us. You period, S period, we the people, having our voices heard. So I can tell you're primed to go. So a little audience participation. When I say hands off, you roar back Social Security. Hands off? Social Security. Hands off? Social Security. Hands off? Social Security. Thank you very much. And now for our first reading. So let me share this with you. Because you have seen yourself that the big lies are trying to wreck the reputation of Social Security. If you've been following in the paper, and you probably have, or you wouldn't have come here today, you can see the cuts to the staffing are wrecking its customer service. And make no mistake about it, they wouldn't need to do that, except that this is one of the most popular programs in America. In fact, as a federal brand, it is second in the American people's hearts and minds, only to Smokey the Bear, the National Park Service, which is pretty good. So if they could have, it is also the only agency that operates with a $2.6 trillion surplus. The Department of Defense doesn't do that. And that surplus was built up by you, and you, and you, and you, and all of us working our whole lives and paying into it. And it was intentionally built up by Congress to have that surplus to cover the lifespans of the baby boomers, when there's more of us coming through retirement than there are working. So if they could have taken that money without wrecking its reputation and wrecking its customer service to turn enough of us against it, they would have done that months ago. They are moving with speed. But they have to undermine its reputation. They have to wreck its customer service to turn enough of us against it. And before I dive in, though, I want to share this with you. Elon Musk said in a Joe Rogan podcast, he said that he believes that empathy is the greatest weakness in the Western mind. He actually said that. But you and I believe differently. You see, you and I are part of a living, breathing, self-creating mystery called the United States of America. But the heart of that mystery is actually a very real and a very personal thing. It is the freedom to believe in and to act upon a powerful truth. The truth that we are one, that our cause is one, and that we need to help each other if we're going to succeed. You see, by your presence here today, that the greatness of our country isn't measured by the amount of wealth we can build up, or even by the size of our armies. It's measured by the care and the compassion we demonstrate for one another. To feed the hungry, to heal the sick, to clothe the naked, to shelter the homeless, to care for widows and orphans, those in the dawn of life and those in the dusk of life, every soul. And there is no act ever put into law by a free people that shows that and does that more clearly than Social Security. Social Security. And why is it so popular? Well, it is as Congressman pointed out, it is a lifeline to so many people. All across country right now, I think it's 73 million people in pay status. For seniors over 65 living alone, 40% of them, it's the difference between living a life with dignity or living a life in poverty. Another reason why it's so popular is because it is a pay-as-you-go program. In other words, the dollars paid in are the same dollars that get paid out every year. And that's why it's been able to operate for 90 years. And that's why every president, Democrat or Republican, since its creation, has considered it a sacred promise. Why else is it popular? It's popular because it actually works. And we're Americans. We kind of like things that work. If we pay our taxes and we earn our benefits, we expect it to work and that somebody will answer the phone for us. So today, let's do a few things. Let's pop some of those balloons of the big lies. Let me also share with you, why it is that I think all of us need to prepare for an interruption at some point here of benefits. I don't know how long or exactly when, but I'll share with you why it is that I believe that is very, very, very likely at this point. And then let's talk about what we can do about it. And you kind of know. It's about being present. It's about showing up. It's about making sure your voice is heard. So let's go here. Big lie number one. You've heard the co-president say it, and you've even heard the president say it. Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. No, Elon, it is not a Ponzi scheme. Now, Bitcoin might be a Ponzi scheme, but not Social Security. So how many of you operate and live and work and plan your future on a 75-year forecast? No? Neither do I. But Social Security does. So there's a 75-year forecast, and every now and again, like every 20, 30 years, Congress looks at that forecast and makes adjustments because of unanticipated shortfalls in revenue, maybe a recession, maybe like in my generation when all our parents came home from World War II and started having a lot of babies, you have this demographic anomaly of a big, lots of people coming through their retirement years. So back in 1982, Congress said, among all of their changes, they wanted to build up a surplus so that there would be enough money in Social Security's trust fund to cover us baby boomers during our years going through. So the year before I was confirmed for Social Security, because of people working in the economy, paid in $1.3 trillion. And Social Security, to people that were active beneficiaries and pay status, paid out $1.4 trillion. So you may ask, where did the $100 billion come from? It came from that surplus reserve that Congress had built up. So when we've all seen the scary articles over the last several years that says, Social Security going bankrupt, meteor to hit Social Security in 2035. What they're really talking about is that built up surplus reserve. Okay? So assuming that surplus reserve did deplete and Congress didn't make their usual adjustment, yeah, we'd all take a 17% cut in benefits. But if you had a family-owned business and your sister told you, who does the books, that we're going to experience a 17% shortfall in 2035, you wouldn't immediately run out, put a poster over your family-owned business and say, bankrupt, out of business because we're going to have a 17% shortfall in 2035. No, you'd make an adjustment. So this is a totally solvable problem. Did you know that if you're part of a family that makes $170,000, you pay about $10,000 into Social Security? Yeah, you probably knew that. Did you know that if you make $170 million, you pay $10,000 into Social Security? So what's that about? If you want to fix the big scary meteor to hit in 2035, just get Elon Musk to keep paying above $170,000. So not a Ponzi scheme. In fact, it's gone on for 90 years. That's 1,085 monthly payments that we've gone without missing. So let me get to the next big lie. Next big lie. Social Security is rife with fraud. All sorts of fraud. It's not true. And although they've taken down now from their website the customer service metrics that we had posted all last year and the productivity metrics, you can still find, and they also eliminated and fired the Inspector General. Donald Trump did that his second day in office. He wiped out, fired for no good reason, all of those Inspectors General. But you can still find some of the reports online. And in the biggest part of the program, which is Title II, that's the retirees and disability. You know what the incidence of improper payments are? Overpayments, underpayments, and fraud? It's less than 1%. Less than 1%. It's actually 0.3%. But I don't like to say that because nobody believes anything can be that small. 0.3%, and only about a third of that is fraud. But here's the big lies they've saying over and over again. Number one, zombie apocalypse. There are 13 million people, they say, walking the continental United States, ripping off Social Security, checks spewing out of their cadaverous pockets as they walk the streets of Louisville. My friends, it's not true. Doesn't happen. It does not happen. It is not true. We get automatic alerts from all of the state offices of vital statistics whenever they record a death. And we also have thousands of people that call us every year when a member of their family dies, and even because most Americans are really honest people. And so the incidence that this happens is minuscule. And usually we get it back in probate if we send a check or two after a person passes. And some of them are unavoidable. If you pass the same week that your batch of payments is going through the system, you know, it's inevitable. So, zombie apocalypse, true or false? How many think false? Raise your hand. All right, I'm not even going to ask. Yes, it's absolutely false. Second big lie. Illegal immigrants are stealing your Social Security money and sucking the Social Security Trust Fund dry. False. The fact is, the law is, that anyone who is working here outside of legal status, the so-called illegal immigrants, are prohibited from ever receiving any Social Security benefits or even getting credit for the time they work here. But they do pay in $25 billion for all of the rest of us that they will never see a dime of. The other big fraud was Elon Musk on one of these shows, Congressman, he said with a straight face, by the way, he only faces, he was talking to the media, the only media he talks to. He was talking to the Fox. And he said, 40% of all of the calls that come into the 1-800 number are fraud. They are people that you can see stealing direct deposits all day and all night, and Social Security doesn't do anything about it. That's what he said. He said, I've seen it myself. That's what he said. Big lie. The truth is, yes, about 8 million of us call the Social Security number, and all of us are waiting a lot longer to get our phone answered now, our calls answered. But only 1 out of every 3,100 calls is a successful fraudster. And there are things that have been put in place for synthetic voice recognition and to identify the robocalls and to identify with the Treasury Department, the suspect account. So all of these things are false. It's all a effort to wreck the reputation of the agency. One more falsehood. Social Security, let me do this, because we gave out some handouts. You see your handouts? I'm going to talk, this is the final big lie. Waste, fraud, and inefficiency, right? None of us want our government to be wasteful or to be inefficient or bloated bureaucracy. You hear them say bloated bureaucracy. One of the things I saw one of his backup team talking about in that interview on the Fox, he said, the hiring ratchet only turns one way in the federal government, and that is more and more and more hires. So look at that sheet on the side with the blue graph. Those blue numbers that you see going up, 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 that's the numbers of active beneficiaries in pay status. Customers. People who sometimes have to go to Social Security to change a direct deposit, change of address. I want more taken out for my withholding. So those are your active beneficiary customers, and you can see the baby boomers coming, can't you? Now look at that red line. If you look at that red line, that is the staffing at Social Security. So when I was asked to go there, they were already at a 50-year low in staffing and an all-time high in customers. And if you see that sharp decline in that line, that's what Elon Musk and the Doge team have done to your Social Security agency. They have driven more of your employees out of the agency, driven them to early retirement, driven them to quit now by paying them cash. And it's not Elon Musk's cash. It's yours. If you were retirement eligible when these guys rolled in with their chainsaws and their meat cleavers, they told you, if you get out right now, we'll pay you to the end of the calendar year. If you leave now. No knowledge transfer. If you aren't retirement eligible, they paid you in different grades, depending on what grade you were in the government service. $5,000 for this grade level, $10,000 for this. If you want to find where the greatest waste has happened at Social Security in the last 10 years, look no further than Elon Musk and the Doge people taking your money and paying your employees to leave the agency. And if you think of this agency as a big insurance company, which it is, it's not just a payment center, it's a big insurance company. The largest adjudicatory body in the world, as Ned Pillersdorf can tell you, 1,300 some administrative law judges that hear the appeal cases, the people that make the initial disability determinations at the state level. So in this insurance company, flip over that page, when Social Security congressmen operated well, like 10 years ago, before they started reducing the staff year in and year out by so-called level funding, which really isn't level, because if your costs go up and you're level funded, they have to reduce to land on budget by like $600 million a year for the last 10 years. That's why the decline in that. But back 10 years ago, when the customer service was at the level you should expect since you paid into it your whole life, their overhead, get this, their ratio, their overhead to benefits paid was 1.2%. compared to benefits paid. If you look at a private insurance company like Allstate, the Good Hands people, they're 19%. Liberty Mutual, Liberty Bibberty, is 23%. So in this hunt for waste, they're looking in the wrong place. But if their goal is to take your $2.6 trillion built up in that trust fund, it's the only place where there's that kind of money. And so let me share with you briefly where Social Security was a year ago before the meat cleavers and the chainsaws came in. Those men and women had gotten every service metric moving in a better direction. We set up a room called the security stat room. The right deputy commissioners were there. We started sharing our data, operational data with each other in ways they had never been given permission to do before. And we started making progress every 2 weeks. And at first it looked just incremental, but when you look over your shoulders with 1 or 2% progress every couple weeks, it builds up. I'll give you just one metric. When I started there, the wait time on average, the average wait time on the 800 number was 42.5 minutes, speed to answer. And they also would click on busy signal for a large percentage of those folks. By the time I left after the election, they had gotten it down to a 12.8 minute speed to answer. The initial disability determinations had been having a backlog, as Ned can tell you, that had been building up for about 15 years on the initial disability determinations by the individual state offices funded by Social Security. And we were able to finally get that moving in a better direction. The backlog peaked in June, and then we started to move that in a better direction. The effectuation of retiree benefits, our goal was 85% within 2 weeks. We hadn't been at 85% since pre-COVID, for about 7 years. By the time we left, we got it up to 87%. And now that's moving in the wrong direction. So this is what they've done. They came in with their meat cleaver, they shoved almost now, they're going to be up to 10,000 people by the end of the summer that they've driven out of the agency, which was only at 54,000 when I first started there. They have taken the IT department even further down. They've cut 50% of the people at the IT department, the ones that understand that COBOL-based data system that they don't even teach anymore in college. But it's not just that they understand how to code in COBOL. It's not just they understand the language. They understand the connection to the connections of the 2,000 other applications on top of that COBOL system that every month in 4 different pay cycles runs every paid beneficiary's records, washes it across that system for any changes, and then sends it through a tiny aperture called the Office of Benefit Information Systems, sends it to Treasury, and they effectuate payments. So that's, on a high level, how that works. So, why do I believe that there's going to be some interruption of benefits? And I hope I'm wrong. I've never hoped so much to be wrong, and actually we're like 4 or 5 days beyond when I thought 90 days ago it would have already happened by now. So that's some hope, huh? I was wrong about that. It's still working. But you drive 10,000 people. These are the milestones along the route here. You drive 10,000, 7,000 to 10,000 people out of the agency. That predictably creates spikes in every backlog and every wait time, whether it's calling the 1-800 number or the initial disability determination. Spikes in all of those. They are all moving in the wrong direction now, after they've gotten them moving in the right direction. So beware of that, because that's another big lie. It was always going bankrupt and it never worked. Poppycock, squared. Not true on either score. So all of those service things are going in the wrong direction. The next thing that everybody could see would happen was that there would be intermittent interruptions in the systems that process these claims. Those intermittent interruptions would become more frequent, and now they've become regular, and they are of longer duration. Some of you may have My SSA accounts Yeah, some of you do. Have you noticed that? Sometimes telling you we can't take you right now, you'll have to log in at another time. Eventually those things, has happened twice when I was there, but we weren't trying to drive people out of the agency. Eventually those things can actually cascade into a total system shutdown. Once it happened on a Thursday because of CrowdStrike, we got it back up by Monday. Another time, fortunately, it happened on a Friday and we again got it back up on Monday. That was a Deloitte problem and a backup drive that, you know, had a malfunction in it. So ultimately, these things will cascade into a total system collapse that will lead to an interruption of benefits for some period of time. I don't know if that is like they only miss one of those four because they break up the 73 million payments into 4 different, you know, pay cycles so that it doesn't choke the systems between Social Security and Treasury. I don't know if it'll be one of those pay cycles where they say we'll pick you up next week. I don't know exactly what. But my hunch is that they want to wreck its reputation, wreck its customer service. They've been telling all of us, you now need to go into the offices, the field offices, to do things that we used to be able to do online. You have to stand on your head, gargle peanut butter, whistle the battle hymn of the Republic in order to prove you are who you are in order to get into your same account. So they're wrecking its reputation, wrecking its customer service, and they have demolished its IT department. And I believe it is intentional. I don't think it's just Silicon Valley arrogance. You know, we got to give people permission to break things. Well, go break your own things. Don't break my monthly check, you know? And I think all of that's with the intent of creating such an emergency situation. So many people crying out to get me my check as soon as you can, as quickly as you can, so that there can be a presidential declaration of an emergency. And then they get away with doing whatever they get away with doing, having turned enough of us against the agency. So, let me leave you on an up note. There are more and more people that have caught on to the fact that there's a daytime housebreaking going on right now. That these guys are coming, they're coming fast, they're driving people out of this storied agency that never missed a monthly payment, even during the pandemic when they all had to exit like all the rest of us, never missed a monthly payment. So people are having their voices heard. They're calling their congressman's office, right, Morgan, like more than ever, and in town halls, and calling not only their congresspeople, their representatives, but also your senators. And don't think because there might not be of your party that they don't care about your voice, you know? So the only way we can save this agency is by all of us being heard and saying, hands off Social Security. I voted for you. That's another good thing to tell all your congressmen, you know? I voted for you, whether you did or not. But call your congresspeople. We're still a republic. We're still a republic while we last. And the aspect of it that is letting your House members know how you would like them to vote on Social Security and defend Social Security is important. And so, with that, we have mic wranglers in the audience, and glad to answer any questions. We're going to split this a bit. The congressman's going to answer. I'm going to try to stick to the operational stuff that I learned, and the congressman, of course, is well able to answer any questions, but probably a lot of the policy and broader national questions. Yes, sir. Oh, they put it on a card. Okay, so you get to not only be the mic wrangler, but you get to be the... Sure. You want to say what it is, or you want to hand him, you want to show him the microphone?
Oh, I don't think he wants to ask it himself, so I can do it if you don't
okay.
want me to. Sir.
Go for it.
The data that has been altered and taken from the Social Security Administration could harm me. Is there a plan to... Sorry.
And I'm supposed to give it back to you, wasn't I, Senator Herron? Wait, just keep rolling?
Yeah, keep rolling.
Okay.
The data that has been altered and taken from the Social Security Administration could harm me. Is there a plan to rectify the data so that workers will receive the proper benefits on file? Oh, never mind.
Yeah, the data thing is a big thing. It's not only, they not only want to, I believe they not only want to rob the Social Security Trust Fund of some amount of that $2.6 trillion, maybe for the sovereign wealth fund they're trying to create for the sovereigns, but they also want to rob our data. I think they already have. notwithstanding the fact that a federal court told them not to and told them keep your hands off of it, and anything you've taken, you need to delete it, give it back. They haven't done any of that. There was an article in the New York Times just yesterday that talked about how they're giving all of our personal data in the nation over to a company called Palantir, Palantir. Its owner is a super wealthy billionaire guy named Peter Thiel. And so I don't believe the article said there has not been a signed on the dotted line yet agreement from Social Security, but if you listen to Elon Musk on stage and his other people, it was pretty clear they didn't care what the judge had ordered. They have boasted that they've gone entirely through the Social Security IT systems. So the recourse is the courts, the Privacy Act, and those things, and hopefully oversight by Congress. But I don't, and let me share this with you. Some people have asked me, should I be printing out my earnings record every week from my SSA? I don't think you need to do that. I mean, I think that COBOL-based data system is backed up every night, and famous last words, right? But I think it is sound enough that that's not what they would corrupt. I think the bigger danger here is they're going to break the payment system, and they're going to break the applications that sit on top of that, not the data within it. What they want to do with our data, who knows? I mean, I'm sure they have a way of making money on it when they have it. You know, the other thing that's in that database, if you are an FBI informant, like somebody that turned on the mob, and you need a new identity, to go live in Pikeville, your identity, you know, the last turn in the bend is to get a new Social Security number. Or if you cooperated with American forces in Afghanistan or Iraq, your last turn in the bend is to get a new Social Security number. Or if you're an asset that's been turned from the intelligence services of Russia or China, you're in that database. So I don't know exactly what they want to do with it, but I'll tell you the way they had an acting commissioner for all of like 5 weeks, very capable woman. She'd been the head of operations. And there came a time when she realized that somebody 5 down in the organization was, contrary to law, they believed, sharing data with the Doge team. They put him on administrative leave. He wrote a screed in LinkedIn saying, yes, I was sharing the information. Yes, I've been put on administrative leave. A kind of pouty, strange thing, which then somebody told him, hey, dude, you probably shouldn't have posted that on LinkedIn. So then he took it down, but not until it had been screenshotted. So he was put on administrative leave on a Friday. And then Michelle King, by Tuesday, presumably, or actually according to a declaration filed in the case, she refused to open up the data in an unfettered way, in a totally unrestricted way to this Doge team, who, by the way, I don't believe had ever passed a background check, let alone understood how the agency and its systems work. So when she wouldn't buckle under, take them off administrative leave and give the Doge team this data, contrary to every oath everybody in the agency is taking, because they will fall on their sword before they'd ever share your personal data. And that's what she did. She resigned, and guess who they put in to replace her? The guy 5 down who had been put on administrative leave. And part of what we know they've been doing with the data is they've weaponized it to use it against non-citizens, immigrant people who came here legally, but maybe overstayed their visa, like Elon Musk did. And what their puppet commissioner said when they started to go, they started to go through and put a death date on all of their records, even though they knew they were alive. And then he said, well, why are they doing this? And this acting commissioner, the puppet one, said, we're going to terminate the financial lives of these people. Do Do you know what happens to your own accounts if you're wrongly declared dead? Immediately, because Social Security keeps the master death file, man, your bank account, you can't get into your own bank account because all of the banks in America key off of that death file. You can't get credit. If they thought they were going to force them to self-deport, well, guess what? They can't buy an airline ticket. And if they're dead, they might not be able to get through TSA. If they're dead, even though they're not dead. And they've done that now to at least 6,600 people that they knew were alive. And the justice can tell you, each one of those is a criminal act. Each one of those 6,600. They say that they have now put a death date on 13 million records that didn't have a death date before. They'd like you to believe all of those people were in pay status. They weren't all in pay status before, although some of them are no doubt people that are living. You know, they actually sent an email to the field offices saying, if someone should show up in the field offices now claiming to be alive, here are the ways that you resurrect them. So I don't know what they're doing with the data, and I'm going to be much more brief in answering these questions so we get to more. Next question.
I'm gonna just add two things to that really very quickly, I promise. One, we're all Kentuckians. I don't know if y'all have ever seen the shirt in Lexington about the University of Kentucky that says, we're a football school with a drinking problem. Well, I saw one in Washington that said, we're a drinking city with a LinkedIn problem. And I think that sort of applies. Two, the governor said something really important. There is congressional oversight. We are three co-equal branches of government, and Congress has tremendous oversight capability when it chooses to use it. So both the oversight and the judiciary committees in the House of Representatives have subpoena power. The chairs of those committees, Jamie Comer and Jim Jordan, respectively, have the ability to use that now. They are refusing, right? And so I think we need to make sure we have people in Congress who are willing to use the oversight power we were given to make sure that these agencies are using our data and our information appropriately.
We will go ahead and get to some of the audience questions. If you have a questions, please raise your hand. We have staff who will come to you. And let's go to this gentleman here in the front row.
Hi, I'm a veteran of the Army and Marine Corps, and I work at Social Security. And I'm a union officer with Council 220. I've worked directly with Mr. O'Malley. You're the best commissioner that we ever had since I was there. It was long overdue, but I will say that I was on the front lines of defending the program and its workers for many years. And both Democrat and Republican Congresses and presidents have failed the program. We had been fighting to get the staffing and the solvency for years, and both parties failed the program. What you're doing here today needs to go viral. You all need to go on tour with all lawmakers, and you don't really have to reinvent the wheel. The program of Social Security sells itself. Just enough Americans don't really know the kind of undermining that's been happening over the years. But if things like what you're doing today goes viral and you go on tour with this kind of thing and you wake up the populace, that will deliver a message to our lawmakers that you need to make the program solvent for future generations and get the staffing back up. I don't know if there's a question in there, but I wanted to thank you and also let you know that Congress and presidents of the past, not just now, have failed the program. The thing is now is that we've gotten to the worst possible situation with leadership when it comes to America's social safety net.
Thank you. Thank you for your service to our military, and thank you for all the work that you have done. We're going to go to a question far in the back.
And can we give a big round of applause to all of our Social Security employees? Hey, look, tell your colleagues I love them. It was the best, most useful year of my life, and I'm not going to stop. I mean, we're out there, we're doing things. Hopefully some point we reach a tipping point. I think in a way we already have. You know, the highest polling negative of the first days of this administration has been what they're doing to Social Security. That's the highest, for all of the other things going on. USAID, Department of Education, all that, Social Security. Sorry, thank you.
All right.
Hi, question is, you even admitted it, that the Social Security computer system is on COBOL. You guys have been in there, you were the head. Why is Congress not reevaluating the statistics? Because I worked in computer for about 15 years now. Getting in a COBOL is so easy to hack. And then you wonder by, and then people also, it's also statistically shown that you never get back what you put into Social Security. Nobody ever does with all the dollars. So why a system that has been created 80 years ago is still running the same way? The stock market could do a lot more. Economists have proven that if you allowed the next generations to start put their money in the stock market, they'd come out a lot better. It's proven in statistics. Also, yes, it is. Also, where's your statistics on this? I can create a graph. Anybody can create a graph. It should be cited with citations before you hand something out.
Is there no citation on that? Okay, I'll put a citation on it for you next time. But it's also been in the congressional record several times. The Biden administration actually had put appropriations, how do I say this? The president submits a budget, and then Congress does what they will with that budget. What they ended up doing was $3 billion less than what the president put in it before. But let me get to the call of your several questions. And both sides of that graph have been in the congressional record, and perhaps the sites are in that as well. It isn't true that nobody gets back more than they put into it, or as much as they put into it. That's not true. It is true that if you're really wealthy, you don't get as much back, because it is a progressive formula that lifts up lower earning people above the poverty line. So that is true. So lower earning people, depending on how long they live, actually get back more than what they put into it. It is also a program that lifts more kids out of poverty, survivor kids. It impacts and lifts more kids out of poverty, I think, than any other program except the child tax credit. And then in terms of the market, in 1982, when they had that last adjustment by Congress, they debated whether they should take some of it and put it in the stock market for a better rate of return. They had that debate, they decided not to, and they restricted Social Security to only invest in what has been the safest investment, which is U.S. Treasury bonds. And so Social Security actually lends our federal government money in a sense, because they invested in those Treasury bonds. Your third point was about COBOL. Why on earth would you not get off of COBOL? Because you can easily hack that. I'm not sure you can easily hack that. We're not aware, while it is true that a lot of our records, most of our records, all of our numbers can be purchased on the dark web, we are not aware of any hack into the system itself. And the defenses there are pretty robust. Although I will say this. The head of cybersecurity, his first deputy, and his second deputy all walked out of the place a week after DOE's got there with their cardboard boxes. So that is a vulnerability. In terms of Congress, the reason they haven't gotten off, it's not like they don't know they need IT modernization, but that hasn't been funded. Do you want to answer the Congress one?
Yeah, I'll take that. And look, this is a frustration of mine since I've been there. There is government spending, and then there's government investment. And there are times, and it's not sexy, but we have to invest in the infrastructure of our government to keep it working, instead of spending money as a Band-Aid to keep old systems in place. I really would like to modernize that. I'm also, by the way, I come out of state ledge world. I'm kind of a balanced budget guy, and I think we need to do a better job of that in Congress as well, but we need to invest in some of our technology. I appreciate you bringing up that point. I also want to address one other point you brought up, that people could do better if they had their money in the stock market. Maybe, right? And I say maybe they could, but that's not what Social Security is. Social Security is part of it's one of the most successful programs we have ever had, Governor, and the reason for that is it guarantees the recipients that they will have income. I mentioned 1 million Kentuckians received, over 1 million Kentuckians received. The benefit in Kentucky is about $1,100, right? $200 below the national average here in Kentucky, and it keeps 53% of our seniors out of poverty. Right? That's what it is meant to do. And as we all know, what happens with the stock market, depending on when you put it in and when you take it out, depends on what you get out of it. And so, you know, I do appreciate that sentiment, but my rebuttal is that's not what, Social Security is not that type of investment vehicle, and it's not how it was designed.
Pat, we'll go to you for the next audience question.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Senator Herron.
The guy right there,
Okay,
yes.
perfect, thank you, sir.
I've got a 81-year-old brother-in-law in Western Kentucky. He's a retired police officer. The new Social Security Fairness Act should have gotten him more money. It didn't happen. He's about an hour away from a Social Security office. He goes there, he can't be seen. Gets on the phone, 2 hours, click, it goes off. He can't. For 2 months, he's been trying to get a call through. He's not a computer guy. My wife gets on the computer, tries to schedule him an appointment in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and there's no option to schedule an appointment. He's at a dead end. He doesn't know what to do.
Thank you for bringing that problem. One thing, I should have said this very early. All of my district staff is here this morning, whether they're walking around. I'm getting some of my DC staff here this morning. Please let us know about that. One of the successes of last Congress, and we don't have a lot of successes to brag about from the last Congress, so let's brag about this one. We finally did the windfall elimination provision and got rid of it so that teachers, police officers, firefighters can get some of the things they are due, they are owed, that they paid into, the benefits they're entitled. One of the problems with the cuts that are happening in the Social Security Administration, we hear about this all the time. Either you can't go in person. If you go in person, you have to go in person to schedule an appointment to come back in person and do it, which is a total waste of time. You know, they have online systems. I told you I had that little town hall in Beecher Terrace, and I just asked the people there, I said, how many people here were able to navigate the online system without help? Only one person raised their hand. We need to do a better job of making that system user-friendly. And we also have to recognize that not everybody who receives Social Security is able to navigate that type of system. Please talk to our staff. If you are having problems like that, please talk to our staff. Amy has her hand up in the back. You see Elizabeth down here in the blue dress. We've got a casework table set up outside with Shelley and others. Please let us know so that we can take those individual cases and help people out.
Thank you. This lady here in the red had a question.
Yeah.
Thank you. A few weeks ago, Elon Musk was in the Oval Office, and he claimed that he eliminated, with Doge, about 12 million people on the Social Security rolls that were 120 years or older. Can you explain how that's a bad thing?
You mean living that long, or like what? I think it was 13 million, might have been 12. So 12 or 13 million people. That's the population the size of Illinois. It is true that historically since 1934 and before the electronic transfer of death certificates and the like, it is true that there are people who died, who passed, who were therefore taken out of benefit status, and yet their exact death date wasn't put in the column where they died. It doesn't mean, though, that they continue to be in pay status. So they took They say they put like an arbitrary death date, whatever date they were programming the thing, on 13 million records that didn't have a death date. They're pretty sure that they didn't make any mistakes out of 13 million. But you'd have to be really, really good not to make any mistakes on 13 million. So here's what's wrong with just doing that. First of all, they're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. Year after year, Inspector General after Inspector General finds a minuscule number of people that continue to get paid for a month or two. And like I said before, we usually recover that when the estate is probated. But it's also a crime to put false information on any record. Imagine if somebody at Social Security did that because they were mad at their girlfriend for dumping them and eliminated her financial life and made it impossible for her to access her accounts and credit and all of that jazz. They actually sent out a directive to their field offices, as I mentioned before, saying if people should show up, which they are doing in greater numbers now than ever before, if people should show up claiming to be alive who were wrongly marked as dead, oops, we needed to clean up these 13 million records. But I think that claim of having done that for 13 million people, here's how it fuels the big lie. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, put out a tweet saying, "Thank you, Doge, for catching the fact that 13 million people were still being, dead people were still being paid by Social Security." It's not the same thing, but it is part of the big lie that the agency is stupid and being built by all of those Walking Dead zombies. Social Security knew themselves, and in the audits knew that there were some people who died in 1951, who hadn't been in pay status since 1951, whose exact death date in 1951 wasn't known. But given their shortage of staff and the number of people dying, waiting in line for an initial disability determination, where do you want to deploy the staff? To people that are living and in need and owed the benefits? Or to cleaning up a death date from 1951 on somebody that wasn't even in pay status? So they did it in an automated way, and I'll bet you we're going to see over time. They made a lot of mistakes, and I think that 13 million will also mask the fact that they zapped a whole lot of people who came here legally as non-citizens. They also try to conflate, just like they confuse not having a death date with receiving benefits, they also try to conflate illegal immigration with people who came here legally. And there's a lot of people in there that they zapped. They said that the 6,000 initially that they asked for, that they wanted to falsely declare were dead, were all repeat violent offenders. I can guarantee you, there is no way that the puppet commissioner at the time, over the 2-day period, reviewed 6,600 records of people with certified convictions. There's no way that happened. But when they start with people that none of us have sympathy for, then they can go to more and more and more people.
Yeah, and I want to address that briefly as well. Look, the governor and I are, I'm sure, in agreement on this. He even mentioned it. We don't want waste. We don't want fraud. We don't want inefficiency or abuse in government. We don't want people receiving payments who should not be receiving payments or who would not be alive. Right? We can disagree on a whole range of policy issues. We can disagree on immigration. We can disagree on marginal tax rates. We can disagree on all sorts of things. But the numbers of Social Security are based in fact. And the numbers of Social Security based in fact are what the governor said. It is way less than 1% error rate. Now in that, we are still striving to make it perfect. The reality is, it's already doing better than any private insurance company in the world. Again, you and I can disagree on issues and opinions. I'm just giving you the facts of the numbers. And what the governor said is really important. There are some people who, for whatever reason, dates were not updated. They are not receiving payments, even though they might have still been technically listed without a death date. But They're not listed as alive, and they're not receiving payments. And so we maybe need to update the computer system. We need to continue to do things. We need to do things to protect Social Security, to make sure that it remains there as the earned benefit it is for every single one of us who paid into it, and we are working to do that. What I don't love seeing are the scare tactics that are coming out right now, because they are coming from people who have expressed two things repeatedly. They believe Social Security is a Ponzi scheme, and they believe it should be privatized. I don't believe in those two things. We can have a difference in opinion on those two things, but recognize that Social Security has remained such a gold standard because it actually is working, and then we have some really great people who continue to work to make sure that it works better and it exists into the future. So I just wanted to add that to the governor's comments.
Thank you. I'm going to ask a question I've gotten from the cards that were given before. There's a couple questions that kept coming up. I'm going to ask a question, and then this gentleman here in front will be next. Congressman, one of the questions that many people ask on these cards is, what can we do as citizens? What can the people do to help support folks like yourself who are fighting to make sure that they're able to keep their Social Security?
Yeah, raise your voice. Speak up, speak out. You can't assume someone else is doing it for you. And the power each of us has in our own individual voice is significant. This week on the floor of the House of Representatives, I'm going to pass a bill because a man named Cody Banks from right here in Louisville, Kentucky came to me. And Cody he's differently able than the rest of us. And even though I'm on the Small Business Committee, he came to me and he said, you know, if you're not born the same way as everybody else, it's hard to start your own business. It's really hard to get through these things if you have some differences in how you process the world around you. I said, you know what, that's a great idea. Let's see if we can do something about that. We're going to pass a law in the United States Congress this week because of Cody. When I was in the state Senate, I passed a law because Jeanette McHugh came to me. Jeanette McHugh was a woman who'd been abused by her husband, never did anything about it until he laid a hand on their kid. She stepped in to stop him, he pulled a gun out, he pointed at her and he shot her. The bullet went through her sweater. She finally sent him to prison and testified. And when he was in prison, she said, I'm going to walk away and start a new life for me and my son. And found out through a quirk in Kentucky law that you have to pay for your abuser's attorney's fees if they're in jail. She came to me in the state Senate, we passed a law that changed that. And my point is, when one person speaks up, they can change a law. When one person speaks up, they can change a community. When one person speaks up, they can change a state or even change the law for everybody in a country. We got 47,000 calls to my office in Q1 of this year. And how do you get to 47,000? 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. Be one of those ones. We look at it every week. Governor, I'm sure when you were in office, you knew who was calling your office. Yep. Tomorrow night is Sunday night, and every Sunday night, I pull up the call report from my office, and I go through every page of it to see who's calling in and what they're calling about. Yep. Doesn't matter if you agree with me or disagree with me. I want to know what you're thinking, and the only way to know that is if you do it. So please use your voice and speak up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Both Representative McGarvey and the governor have mentioned using your voice to make awareness known. We're dealing with a couple of people in senator positions that I call are on the dark side. What can we do to help sway their mood towards all of these positions on Social Security? And how can we impact the Congressional Oversight Committee so that they will be forced to make a decision to investigate and correct the discrepancies with Social Security?
Many of you are already making that impact. You might not hear it from them publicly, but there was a headline in The Hill, which is a journal that covers the goings-on in Congress. And the headline, this was like a month and a half ago, was Republican senators behind closed doors want Elon Musk to shut up about Social Security. So I think Congressman McGarvey would agree that whether you're a senator or a congressperson, Democrat or Republican, you look at who's calling in about what and what the volume is, and whether it's rising or whether it's declining, whether it's a blip or an indicator of arisen people who would take what you would not give.
That's a great point. And you guys do have that impact. I mean, I never thought I would stand here on a stage again at my alma mater and say this, but I think Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, and I are all going to vote the same way on the budget. You know, the wonderful thing about our government, and I told you my youngest child was up this morning. She's going to start first grade in the fall, and she has become obsessed with the Who Was books. And recently we've been reading the Who Was of every person who's on Mount Rushmore. And so we just read Who Was Thomas Jefferson last week. And if you know the beauty of the document that he sat in the second-story apartment of a bricklayer in Philadelphia and wrote the Declaration of Independence and said, we are going to move to a government that is of, by, and for the people, where the people have the power in the government. It is your government. The senators you're talking about, me, governor with who's governor, who do we work for? You. You're our boss. Here I am sitting here in front of a meeting right now of my bosses. You guys have that power, and don't be afraid to use it. But the governor says something really important. You can't always just make a call, or maybe even worse, just put something up on social media and leave it alone. You can't be a blip on the radar. Make sure that that voice is heard, that people know this is something you care about and you're not going to forget about. Your elected officials will hear you.
Make it like weekly democratic hygiene, small d, you know, to contact them.
Thank you. We are, thank you all for being here and hanging in. We're going to take one more question from the audience. And so if you do have a burning question, we've got a gentleman up here in the front.
And by the way, for those of you that want to do your own research, the latest report on that death issue and improper payments came out of the Inspector General's office. It was posted March 25th of this year, March 25th, 2025. And you can read for yourself from the Inspector General what the very small incidence of error is.
Oh, through the years, there have been several incremental increases in the Social Security limits, and like I said, we're up to 170,000 now. I know it's not going to happen during this administration, but has there ever been any serious effort to move that to 500,000, a million, or unlimited to make it not such a regressive taxing system?
Yes. In fact, Representative John Larson from Connecticut has introduced a bill, introduced it last Congress, introduced it this Congress. I think it's been introduced this Congress already. I'm a co-sponsor of it.
You're here.
Look, let's just run through some of the numbers really quickly. I thought it was, I may have been wrong, I thought it was up to $176,100.
It is this year.
So $176,100, that's the cap on Social Security. That means if you make $90 million, or if you make $1 million a year, over 80% of your income is not taxed for Social Security. However, think about what $176,100 in Louisville, Kentucky is. I can tell you there's no member of Congress that makes that amount. There's no principal in any one of our high schools in Jefferson County who makes that amount of money. You're paying 100% of your income. But somebody who's making $500,000, $1 million or more, the vast majority of their income is not being taxed for Social Security purposes. This is a bill that has broad support. However, I can't say that it has broad bipartisan support. And we need a few people just to stand up and say, look, this is a system that has worked for 90 years. It is a lifeline that keeps half of our seniors out of poverty. Let's find ways to fairly make it work into the future, and I think this is one way we can definitely do that.
Thank you all. Please continue to give it up and clap for Governor O'Malley. Thank you so much for coming, lending your expertise and your knowledge. And Congressman McGarvey, thank you so much for your leadership.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
And let's give it up for the senators.
Yes. Thank you all for coming. And please don't forget, if you need anything from the Congressman's office, there is a table out there for case management work. Thank you all and have a blessed day.
What's the bill called? What is the bill? I don't know the number.
Thank you all for watching. I'm gonna end the live now. Be posting photos and stuff at some point in the near future. If you, for some reason, aren't already following and subscribed and so on, you can go to find.mftw.media for all my social links. And if you would like to or are able to do so, you can go to support.mftw.media to do that. So thank you all again, and stay safe, stay good, and free Palestine.